Hey guys, welcome back to Ace Recaps. Today I'm going to be explaining a 2022 Hindi mystery sci-fi film titled, Dobara. In 1996, during a 3-day-long electrical storm, there was a boy named Anay who just lost his father. While recording himself, he hears some noises and sees a fight happening in his neighbor's house through the window in his room. Anay tries to tell his mom about it, but she's fast asleep. The curious little boy immediately sneaks into his neighbor's house to see what happened. When he goes inside, he is very surprised to see Mrs. Rajuta dead on the floor. Shortly after, Raja Ghosh, her husband, comes down with a knife in his hand. Looking at this, Anay freaks out and tries to escape. Unfortunately, he is accidentally hit by a fire truck on the road and he passes away. The movie then takes us 25 years into the future to 2021. Abhishek, a pilot, still lives with his mother Clara. As they look up at the sky, an agitated Clara tells Abhishek that this electrical storm is similar to the storm that occurred 25 years ago during Anay's death. In the next scene, a married couple, Antara and Vikas, move into Anay's old house along with their daughter Avanti. Antara works as a nurse in the nearby hospital and Vikas is a manager at a prestigious hotel. They find an old TV in a storeroom along with a video recorder and cassettes. They decide to watch one of the cassettes, which contains a recording of Anay and his father. That evening, they invite Abhishek and his mother to have dinner at their house as they were friends since college. They speak about the strange events that took place in that house 25 years ago. Abhishek reveals that Anay was his best friend in school and died during a thunderstorm, but thanks to him, the neighbor Raja Ghosh was caught red-handed with a knife in his hand. That night, before going to bed, Vikas searches for news about what happened. He tells his wife that Raja Ghosh confessed to everything and had planned to hide the body behind the factory he worked at. 6 months later, he committed suicide in his jail cell. Antara suspects Vikas as she found a lighter and keycard with the initials SK in his pants, but Vikas just dismisses this, saying that it must be one of the guests. Antara isn't able to sleep due to the thunderstorm, so she decides to continue watching the tape of little Anay. At the same time, in 1996, Anay turned on his video camera. They are connected via the video camera and the TV. Their dimensions are connected through a time tunnel formed by the storms that occur simultaneously. Antara is initially shocked because she can see Anay through the TV and finds a way to interact with him. While they are confused, Anay hears some noises coming from his neighbor's house. Antara realizes that this was the night the poor kid dies, so she tries hard to persuade him not to leave his house so that he will not be hit by the fire truck on the road. She tells him all the things that will happen to Anay if he goes to Raj's house. She even shows him a laptop to prove to him she's from the future and tells him about the incidents that are going to happen the next day. Lightning will strike Anay's school clock, causing the school's electricity to go out completely, and eventually the school is closed for 2 days. The next morning, Anay tells his mother what had happened last night. When Anay arrives at his school, he is astonished that everything Antara said actually happened. He tries to convince his mom about the lady on the TV, but she thinks that he was just dreaming. Back in the present, Antara wakes up in a haze. She's all alone in an apartment that she can't recognize. She doesn't think much of this and rushes to the hospital as she's got a surgery to tend to. At the hospital, everyone seems to treat her differently. They now call her doctor even though she decided to become a nurse when she got pregnant. When they ask her to perform a surgery, Antara gets agitated and decides to go pick up her daughter at her swimming class. She inquires around, but there seems to be no record of Avanti anywhere and none of the other kids remember her. Fearing her child's been kidnapped, she calls the police. We are then introduced to Inspector Anand. The inspector asks her about what she remembers last. At first she tells him about Anay being hit by a fire truck because he witnessed a murder. And about how she saved the little boy's life by warning him about his impending death. None of this makes sense to the officer, so she decides to go visit her husband in the hotel. She keeps questioning Vikas about their daughter, but he doesn't seem to recognize Antara or remember Avanti. She panics and rushes out of there. She spots the initials SK again, and realizes that her husband has been cheating on her with the woman at the counter. She runs back in and questions him about it but spots a picture of him with another woman. Like seriously, How stupid do you have to be to cheat on such a beautiful woman? That too in two different universes with two different wives. Antara feels like she's tripping balls in a dream, and so the inspector explains to her that Vikas is not her husband and Avanti never existed because her birth certificate and pictures were not found. Antara feels like she's losing her mind, so they go back to the hospital. The result of her brain scan shows that there's nothing wrong and everything seems to be normal. The doctor then shows her all her award certificates, and it turns out that she is the best neurologist in the hospital. She finally realizes that her present has changed since she saved Anay from his death back in the past. Best neurologist my ass, took her long enough. Back in 1996, Anay, who has been saved from his death, is still curious about Raja's unusual activities. Raja goes out for the night and Anay spots him through his window. So he decides to inquire some more. He sneaks into Raja's house and is shocked to find Mrs. Rajuta's body on the floor. He panics, and just as he's about to leave the house, Raja comes back home. Not knowing what to do, Anay decides to hide under a table. He sees Raja carrying a hacksaw and starts to mutilate Mrs. Rajuta's body while he waits for the right time to escape from the house. In the present, Antara goes to visit her friend Abhishek, who now owns a library instead of being a pilot. Unfortunately, he only remembers her as the famous doctor in town. She tells him her story and asks him about Anay since they were best friends in school. Abhishek and Anay parted ways after high school. He used to keep telling everyone about a girl on his TV who was from the future. He even informed the police about the murder of Mrs. Rajuta, but it was all in vain. Nobody believed him and the whole school started to make fun of him. So his mother sells the house and they move away. Which means, that in this reality Raja Ghosh was never convicted of murder, as he made it look like his wife left and ran away with another man. He then shows her a book written by Anay's psychiatrist about a girl in the TV from the future. She uses this as evidence and convinces the inspector that she's telling the truth. The both of them then decide to go to the old factory and look for the remains of Mrs. Rajuta. They find it, and now Antara is convinced that she's not dreaming. So she's now on a mission to find Anay as the storm ends tonight. She goes to Vikas's hotel and catches him red-handed with the woman from the counter. But she doesn't care about that now since she needs to get back to her daughter at any cost. She blackmails him that she'd tell his wife about her and gets him to immediately drop her off at the house of the woman he purchased his home from. In the meantime, the police arrest Raja Ghosh and his wife. During the interrogation, it is also revealed that Raja and his current wife were having an affair and they were caught by Mrs. Rajuta. A fight broke loose and his current wife accidentally stabbed Mrs. Rajuta, which caused her to fall down the stairs and pass away. Antara enters the lady's house and is surprised to find out that Inspector Anand is actually Anay. The both of them have actually been in love for the past 5 years, but she remembers none of it. She then gets a call from Anay, who tells her that he's waiting for her. When he goes there, the truth is finally revealed. Anay got obsessed with the lady from the TV and he only knew the hospital she was working at. He visits the hospital every month until one fine day, Antara finally arrives. He tries to talk to her about the incident on the TV, but she doesn't seem to remember any of it. So he decides to forget about the whole ordeal and they fall in love with each other. This resulted in her never meeting Vikas and never giving birth to Avanti. Frustrated with the whole situation, she blames the inspector for Avanti not existing. Realizing she only has an hour before the storm ends and her never getting to see her daughter again. She tells Anay that it's up to him to save her life now and jumps in front of a car. Anay panics and realizes the only way to try and save the love of his life is to switch the TV back on again. The TV connects to the past, where he sees his younger self. He tells little Anay to forget about the girl on the TV and just focus on himself, and one day the both of them will run into each other. This was enough to alter the universe one last time. Antara suddenly wakes up in the pool and spots her daughter swimming with her. She hugs her with tears in her eyes. She then goes back home and breaks it off with Vikas as he's been cheating on her for the past year, and he moves out of the house. When she looks at her neighbor, she realizes that Raja Ghosh was never caught for the murder of his wife. So she goes back to the factory and finds Mrs. Rajuta's remains and calls the police. The movie ends as she finally runs into the love of her life again. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like the video please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.